Good morning. It's 8 a.m. We will call the Committee on Appointments to order. All right. Well, first and foremost, at the top of the day, I'm happy to be the first person to wish our community in Grand Rapids here a happy Pride Month, as this is the first month in June, and a happy Pride Month to all Grand Rapidians. So we have a few things on the docket today, starting with the first one here, which is a resolution recognizing Commissioner Kilgore's appointment of Sherlyn James to the Public Safety Committee.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any conversation, colleagues, on this appointment?
Comments.
Yes, Commissioner Robbins.
Is this the individual that we chatted about at a previous meeting, or is this a different individual?
No, this is
Okay.
a different individual, and I have a few comments
Sure.
to answer
Yeah.
that question.
Yep, go right ahead.
Sherlyn James is a neighbor in the 3rd Ward.
Awesome.
I am very excited since we came to the conclusion of last meeting of we didn't necessarily want a member of the ACLU who actively has pending litigation with us in the courts. I moved to find another individual who has a beautiful work history and background here in the 3rd Ward. Miss Sherlyn James is an Army veteran who has also served our nation and our community and is a mother as well, and will be a beautiful addition to this committee, as we have no women right now on our committee. And in terms of safety, gender and different expressions are very important on all of our committees. So I believe this is a beautiful addition as someone who has served our nation and has that aspect, as you know, Commissioner Robbins, is serving our nation as well. So different appointment with a different background and different aspects and insight that she will be bringing to this committee, and I highly recommend it.
Awesome.
Yes, thank you. Good question.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't remember the name from the previous conversation, so I just
Yes,
was trying
yeah.
to tie the dots there. But
Different person, yeah.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you.
Commissioner Isasi?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted you to say your thoughts first. Thank you. But I too know Miss James, and I think that she'll bring a good perspective to the body. She's very committed, but not overextended. That's what I worry about sometimes. Is like,
That's right.
But I think she's, she has young children as well, and so I think that perspective is needed. So I'm happy to support this appointment.
Wonderful. Okay, let's call the vote here. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It carries. That leads us to our second resolution, approving the City Commission's appointment of Michelle Eddy to the Kent Hospital Finance Authority.
So moved.
So moved.
Support.
There we are. Any conversation on this appointment?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Isasi.
I'll just add that this is a typical appointment of somebody who serves in the human resources or legal and risk area. So with the departure of Miss Randy Bowers-Payne, our Assistant HR Director, Michelle Eddy, has agreed, and I think will be a good addition to this body as well. It doesn't meet on a regular basis, but it is an important body, so I'm happy that she'll serve.
Awesome.
And my comment is Ms. Bosker has been doing her due diligence and really making sure we fill all the vacancies we have. I'm always just deeply thankful for the dedicated city staff we have. So thank you all who are on this dais and who work every day for the city. And also deeply thankful for Commissioner Isasi for being the most senior member who has this history. And that was a quick, almost instant response back of who could fill this role and what that looks like. So deeply happy to also support this appointment. So let's call a vote here. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It carries. That moves us to our third resolution, confirming Mayor LeGrand's appointment of Christina Van Dam to the North Quarter Corridor Improvement Authority.
So moved.
Support.
All right. Any conversation on that appointment?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner?
Thank you. Ms. Van Dam is a business owner and has had over the last year purchased some property in the 2nd Ward, and so she's the owner of Aerial Fitness, and we had a couple of openings, so it'd be great to just get some more people added there. This body is actively involved in a number of items in the corridor, including supporting the Creston Farmers Market that just opened this past week and will be open for the next couple of weeks, so I'm glad to have another person fill in the spot.
Awesome. All right, let's call the vote here. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It carries. Here's our last resolution, confirming Mayor LeGrand's appointment of Patrick Hilton to the Michigan Street Corridor Improvement Authority.
So moved.
Support.
Comments, colleagues? Okay, I'll call the vote then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It carries. Now let's have a discussion on our current board and commission vacancies. Ms. Bosker, any key highlights?
I will highlight that we do have a couple resignations on the agenda for later. We have a couple resignations from Uptown, CIA, and BID. And then the Smart Zone. Lisa Freiberger resigned from GRCC and is leaving the Smart Zone. But there is already a replacement in the works that should happen at the next meeting for that board. And I will start working with the Economic Development Department on filling up the Uptown vacancies. And
Yeah.
we are also actively working on the Land Bank
Yes.
Authority, which I know that I've kind of been keeping y'all updated with the applications as they come in. I feel confident that if we continue to have applications trickle in, they can be reviewed, and we should hopefully be able to have enough appointments at the meeting in July to have a functioning board while we fill in the gaps.
Yeah. This is deeply important for community. This is a innovative, in my opinion, transformational tool that we had a lot of conversation about in the beginning of the year. And I'd just like to, remind the public and myself, right, these are mayoral appointments. So the mayor will be working on these, and these will hopefully, like you're saying, we'll have some of those before us in July, you believe?
Hopefully. I know that
Hopefully.
there are at least a couple that I think are a yes.
Okay.
But I believe, but there would need to be the minimum for a quorum, I believe. And
Wonderful.
Commissioner Sassi serving on the Brownfield, I'm sure would have more to say, and I think that's also to be discussed later today.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any conversation on that, colleagues?
Yes, thank you,
Commissioner
Mr.
Sassi.
Chair, and thanks, Ms. Bosker. For Brownfield, we do have one name that's in front of the mayor. I think it was just a timing piece, so I hope that can be approved, give his pre-approval and come to our first meeting in July, which will be July 17th, I believe. Is that true? 15th, okay. That leaves us at Economic Development with two positions. Why that's important is because that body is currently serving as the Land Bank Authority, just as a reminder to everybody or anybody who might be watching. I know we've talked about some of the other people who are in the queue for Brownfield as well, because either way, we'll need to fill the other two. And then for Land Bank, I would just remind us all, I know we talked actively, and the mayor was supportive of each one of us, of our wards, of having a recommendation to serve on the body as well. I have some other thoughts too of individuals. It doesn't necessarily have to be from your ward, but somebody that you would want that would be representative. I think there is no residency requirement on the land bank, I don't believe. But of course, we'd want to, I think, have a reflection of Grand Rapids residents or
Yes,
individuals who are actively engaged in the work in Grand Rapids. So that's something that I'll follow up, and Commissioner Robbins, perhaps I could talk to you and Commissioner Belcheck about some thoughts in the first ward, or maybe they end up being my appointment. But yes, I think that if we can stay on top of this one, that would be great, and then we'll backfill those Brownfield ones. Can we go back up to the planning? So planning has one right now, right?
Yes.
Planning also does have alternates that can fill in, so there's, on this body, there are also two alternates, I believe, city clerk, so that can help to fill in. But even sometimes the alternates have a hard time coming too, just because we all have different roles.
I think the alternates are only on ZBA.
Yeah.
Only on ZBA, we don't have them on planning?
I
Oh,
don't think
No,
so.
there
Oh.
are alternates on the BZA, but not planning.
not on planning, okay. My husband was on BZ,
And-
that's why I'm getting them confused.
The mayor, thank you so much, Commissioner. The mayor is actively reviewing and thinking of someone to fill that position
Okay,
on planning.
great.
We did have that conversation as the mayor and I are talking, since, as we know, the majority of these appointments are mayoral, and just trying to change and be very intentional, right, about these positions, especially all of these committees and boards are deeply important for our city, but some of them have more decision-making power, like the Planning Commission, so we really want to be intentional. In addition, to speak to the Land Bank, Commissioner Perdue, my colleague in the Third Ward, and I have spoken and have actively been thinking of who we would recommend to the mayor. We, like we discussed for many of our boards, what's missing, right? What is something that we want to add? What's that expertise? What's that background and experience we want to add to the board? The Third Ward, our conversation has specifically been about real estate, right? We heard that from the current Brownfield Authority Board, Brownfield, and we want to uplift that. So that's where our recommendation is coming from, just for my colleagues, when you're talking with your other commissioners, that's where we're at, right? So maybe we could think like that and once again be intentional about what we'd like to bring to that board. So that's great. I know we want to discuss that. And then lastly, if we can quickly, I'd like to uplift a change to our possible change to our applications, if that's okay to Mrs. Bosker to talk about that. So in our application, there's several questions, right? And there's been conversation about Ms. Bosker, you might say this better than I will. In the past 10 years, here we are, there it is, thank you. In the past 10 years, have you been convicted of a crime involving theft, fraud, or other dishonesty? So there's conversation with the mayor and other commissioners on removing that question, and I'd just like to hear the feedback from my colleagues on this committee of, do we think that that is a question that is needed, as some may think that it will detract or take away from folks who may have turned a new leaf, who have, went through all legal steps to atone for what mistakes they may have made, and do we need to include that, as it may keep some folks out of these important city boards and committees. So would just love to hear your feedback on possibly changing, adapting this process and application process. Yes, Commissioner Robbins.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I guess follow-up question to that. I guess what's the protocol for if somebody answers yes on this question? Is it like immediate disqualifier, or is it something where, like, you're applying for a job, something comes up on your background check, and you kind of have a chance to talk through it and sort of give more context as to why you answered yes before a decision's made? I guess I'd be curious to know what that process looks like.
It is not an immediate, no. Part of the vetting process, the three departments that review all the applications, Treasury, Income Tax, and then the Law Department also does. And what would be an immediate no is if the Law Department found that the applicant has a current case or current litigation that involves the city, similar to what happened with the ACLU situation. And even that wasn't an immediate no, but it would be an immediate flag to consider. I think that this is more information just to include, like you mentioned, in everybody's review, the appointing authority to review.
Okay. Yeah, that's helpful to understand, I guess. In my mind, it almost more so just depends on the nature of why they answered yes versus, I think it's, important to maybe ask that kind of question, even if it was, say, 9 years ago, but the amount of theft was several $1 million. I think that's certainly something that we would want to know, versus if it's, maybe 9 years ago and it was, small retail theft. Like you mentioned, they've, done what they need to, maybe turn their life around or brought themselves to a different place. So something like that, I certainly think we could look past. But I guess in my mind, I'd rather keep the question, but maybe we could just be more thoughtful about the context of whatever caused someone to answer yes and kind of go from there. So that's just kind of my initial thoughts, but certainly a fair question.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Commissioner Isasi?
Thank you. I've also talked to the city attorney about this, and, I think, and talked to the mayor at the last meeting. And I think, yes, there is this general sentiment of how do we also mirror this with, like, our employment application? Because in the past years, we've really done a lot in that space. Like, there's different considerations unless you have, like, a safety position inside the city, that if you do, regarding, like, drug testing, other pieces. I know that's more broad. What I would say is, from even though this is an employment, typically what you would do is you would set a standard, and then you would explain to people what you're looking at when you're being vetted. So, for example, in the past, I can think of at least last year, when we moved an individual, there was a very recent financial crime, and they were involved with a board that was involved with distributing high amounts of dollars outside of the city. So we did make that change. We always try to extend to individuals anybody has the ability to resign from a position before action is taken, because we can understand, again, we live in a community where, it's not small, but people may know each other enough, so we want to be able to offer those perspectives as well. I would say something of, one, I would think if we could move this to a work group, this body has the ability to set a work session to discuss this more broadly and to give it the time that it needs. But so I'm generally supportive of, much like a ban the box, like removing whatever might be like a barrier in the beginning, but also say, we will ask you these questions throughout the vetting process dependent upon the board, and we would look at EEOC guidelines typically call for employment. You would look at the length since the conviction, what was the personal record since the conviction. You would look at, other circumstances. And so I think that's essentially what we want to do, but I think it's important to explain to people that could be taken into consideration. And again, to your point, Commissioner, if it was a financial crime that was at, there's obviously not a lawyer, we got one here, but rose to different levels. I see Patrick shaking his head. Then that would be, it is taken on that case-by-case basis. And then to your point, Ms. Bosker, calling out some of the active, that would be another flag. So I'm supportive of how we might remove barriers if people see that, oh my gosh, they're going to ask and this is going to be no, because we've seen that in our employment practices. But then also explaining this could be considered, and it's not, just because you have it is not an immediate disqualifier, but you could have it and it might prevent you from being, say, on this board. To me, I think that the next question, assaultive or violent contact is like always thinking about how people can feel safe in spaces. And, I think about this probably not in the city, but people who have like maybe opted out of things because of different individuals. So anyways, I might suggest a work session and include, obviously we've got our city attorney's office, but include any other pieces. We could also do some comparisons with our employment application. Thanks.
This is really good feedback, yes.
Yeah, no, thanks. I think that's a great point too. I wonder maybe just at the very minimum in the meantime, if there was some sort of language we could add to the application, just saying like, if you answer yes on this question, it doesn't mean it's an immediate disqualification, but it's just some sort of like, we'll based on the nature of the board in the meantime, we'll ask some questions and get some follow-up just to understand the context of why you answered yes, but just clarifying that it's not a barrier that's going to prevent someone from serving if they do have to answer yes. So that's also an option we can do in the meantime.
Great. Yes, Mr. Cook?
Yeah. How many of these PIFs do we have that people mark yes on the boxes? I guess, what size issue are we looking at here?
Not many.
Not many, yeah. Oh, go ahead, Commissioner.
I think that's fair, but I also think that's not really what we're judging. We're judging people who might not fill it out because they see it.
Right.
So I think we don't really have like the pool. So I would say some of the things that we did on the employment side, I think was for that reason. Mm-hmm. So, that was like under Mary Beth. So this was a long time ago. This was a couple HR directors ago. Patrick, you're remembering all this, so. You've been around a long time. Yeah. So I wonder, that's what I'm saying. I think we have some ability to mirror what we did on, and to me, if we're going to talk about employment in Grand Rapids and we have removed certain language, why wouldn't we mirror that in the service? Because that's obviously less of a relationship we're not going to be giving a paycheck. So that's my suggestion.
Yeah. That was great feedback, colleagues. Thank you so much. And Ms. Bosker, again, so I like, of course, the more, it's just like when we now know that we convene like a special work group for when we have the city commission appointments, and then we bring that to this body, and then it goes forth to the city commission. I believe I would agree with Commissioner Isasi in doing the same thing with this, where we chat more about that and then bring it, because I believe when we discussed, we don't need a formal vote on the city commission to change this policy.
To change the application, that can be done administratively.
Okay.
If we were to address the policy, write it into the policy, which it's not really in the policy now, but if we wanted to adjust the policy at all, then that would need to go to the
Sure.
committee of the whole.
Okay, that's really good to know. I think that sets us up well. And then last but not least, let's chat just a little bit here. This is cracking me up. This is about the longest committee on appointments we've had, but we've got a lot to talk about. It's been a minute. So lastly here, let's chat just a moment about the GR Police Civilian Appeal Board membership. And if you could, Ms. Bosker, just give us some background, and then I'd love to hear if my colleagues have any comments and feedback.
Yes, that board each commissioner has one appointment and the mayor has three, and all of the members are up for reappointment. I am going to meet with them at their meeting next week just to go over the reappointment process, understand any desire to serve again, to relate to you all, but either way, you all have an appointment on that board, and we are anxious to fill that with current appointments from the current body of elected officials.
And did you get feedback, Ms. Bosker, from the liaison?
I did meet with the liaison.
Okay.
Our meeting was interrupted by a fire alarm.
Oh, I did see that email.
So it was very brief, which is how we kind of settled on, I'll pop into their meeting next week.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, just to facilitate the process and
Get more feedback, because they also discussed, I feel like, remember saying that they maybe want to stagger so that there's some history and that it's not all new people, perhaps, right? There may be some commissioners who want to reappoint folks, but that would be pretty, a bigger change if everyone rolled off at the same time.
Right, that is a concern, my understanding, that's a concern of the body, because there is a lot of onboarding for that particular body. But for now, we're sticking with the way it is, so all the new appointments would expire in 2 years until they work out with their board rules and how they would stagger, or if that's a possibility. But for now, that's not part of their bylaws, so we're sticking with the way it is. That is on the table, though.
Awesome. Well, that's good to know. That means, maybe by our next meeting in July, we'll have more feedback from them on how they'd like to proceed, but just to be keeping that in the back of our mind for when those appointments come up. All right, you all. Well, like I said, this is funny that 22 minutes is the longest meeting we've had this long this year. Any final comments from my colleagues or our wonderful city staff? All right, seeing none, we will adjourn the Committee on Appointments at 8:22 a.m. Have a great morning.
right, good morning, all. It is 8:30 here this morning. We'll go ahead and kick off our fiscal committee meeting. We have, 10 items before us today. Starting with item number 1, we've got a resolution to amend City Commission Policy 400-01, titled Statement of Investment Policies, Procedures, and Objectives. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support?
All right, moved and supported.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
This morning, with our update to our policy, I'm going to have our investment officer, Levi Bolt, talk about that. You were given a copy of our memo of the changes that are in there. There's really, those are the changes that are there. Most of the stuff that you received is a red line document, which really was mostly formatting, moves, change, adds to just clarify the document that are not material to the impact of the investment policy. It's the items that are in the memo that are the key. And so with that, I'm going to introduce Mr. Levi Bolt, our investment officer, to go over this item.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
As a best practice, the City Treasurer's Office regularly reviews our investment policy on an annual basis. Part of that review consists of basically getting feedback from our partners. Our existing policy was written back in 2015. At the time, we retained a third-party consultant. We didn't mention it at the time, but I think you might have been under the impression that it was being paid by the word. So what we found, and as the policy was gradually modified over time, as those reviews were conducted, it got to the point where basically, okay, in order to actually rewrite this thing, we just need to pull out a blank sheet of paper and start over. So the policy before you was designed in order to be certified by 2 different organizations, the Association of Professional Treasurers of the United States and Canada, as well as the Government Investment Officers Association. A lot of the feedback that was incorporated into writing this policy was from Sean Neidiger, who's the Director of Investments for the state of Idaho. I had a very long conversation with him at a GIOA conference in March, as well as Greg Prost, who's the Chief Investment Officer of Robinson Capital, as well as APT US&C's primary point person when it comes to investments. The primary changes to the investment policy, first off would be creation of a committee, ad hoc, basically to assist John and I as we are making investment decisions. Primarily, this would be to give us a better handle on the city's own cash flow, because the major investment strategy that we employ is to offset existing cash flow deficits and liabilities with investments that have positive cash flow to offset. And obviously, you have to have a very, very clear picture of when money is being spent, how much, where, in addition to just the normal fiscal cycle of the city in order to do that. Second, there are some adjustments to allocation limits. That's fairly typical as market changes and different investments change in risk profiles. Those need to be adjusted over time. There's a technical change in reducing the maximum maturity limits of securities within the portfolio. That's important because it limits the amount of interest rate risk and reinvestment risk that the city would be exposed to at any point in time. Some of that was prompted by change in investment accounting software prompted by the ERP project. Frankly, the existing policy sets a standard of 7 years weighted average life. That's a very technical calculation that occurs, and unfortunately the new investment accounting platform just simply doesn't have that particular calculation. So we're switching to weighted average maturity. The other thing is, quite frankly, 7 years weighted average life was too long. It was a limit that was not meaningful. So this, by changing both the calculation as well as shortening it up a little, it adds a little bit of teeth to the limit. One of the other major changes that some of our banking partners have already noticed is we're emphasizing collateralization of deposits. As you know, FDIC coverage only goes up to $250,000 on deposited monies. There's potential for up to 500 depending on account structures. That's obviously far below the asset level that the city has to deal with. Now, there's different ways we can structure interest-bearing deposits in order to protect the city in case of bank failures. Collateralization is one of those, and it's one that we have not really pursued in the past simply because the state of Michigan does not require municipalities to do so. However, this policy change is a recognition that that is a best practice, even if it is not legally required by the state. And then finally, quite frankly, continuing education so that I know what I'm talking about. So if you have any questions about the new policy, I'm happy to answer.
Great, thank you for that. Let me turn to my colleagues first and see if there's anything they'd like to ask, questions or comments. You look like there's something you want to say.
I don't know how to ask. It's,
I can ask a question first if you want to think on it.
well, it's, I guess it's a question with a question, like.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for your work on this. We certainly want you to know what you're talking about when it comes to our city's investment, so thank you for that. Could just maybe 30 seconds or less, could you explain the collateralization and how that differs from what we're currently doing?
Sure. In the past, basically, we had significant uncollateralized deposits. When I started, and this was relatively shortly in the aftermath of the financial crisis, we had individual certificates of deposits in excess of $20 million that were, that'd be 19,907, do the math, that would be completely uninsured. So there's, it's one of those, simply as a matter of, in the wake of 3 bank failures recently, some of which, and a significant downgrade to a bank that we do business with, we thought it was a necessary step.
Okay, yep, thanks for that information. Commissioner Knight? Otherwise, we can follow up later, too.
I guess the question is, what questions should we be asking?
I think really if you're asking a question about it, it's like, as Commissioner Robbins asked, is why would you have a collateralization on a deposit? And really it's about our risk exposure. Even though there have been 3 bank failures, people haven't lost interest or their principal. But really it is to give us the security that we know that if we've got $10 million in a bank account and we're putting it into a certificate of deposit, that we're not going to be at risk of losing any of that money or having that money tied up for a lengthy period of time if there were any type of default. And so really it's a protection and security piece for us to have that in place versus an unsecured deposit. So really it's about our concept of safety of principal. That's the overarching goal of our policy is safety, liquidity, yield. And so we want to make sure that we have those protections in place. Other items, I mean, when we talk about the continuing education, it's not just for Mr. Bolt. My entire staff, or we have 4 or 5 people that work on this program. We make sure that they have different certifications like the CPFIM, which is a certified professional funds investment manager role. So they have the training so that as we're communicating as a group and talking with Levi, we understand how these items are moving and changing and how we've invested our funds so that we have multiple eyes on that portfolio. It's not just a one-off item. So we have 4 people that have those designations right now, and that's important for us because that's continuity of our work. As Mr. Bolt stated, the 7-year weighted average maturity, we went through a period where the Fed held down interest rates for 6, 7, 8 years, artificially down to 0.25%. So as we were building out our policy, we're looking to try to cover that gap so that as we invest out, we can hopefully avoid that really low interest rate environment and keep more consistent earnings over time. But now hindsight being 2020, that 7 years isn't really accurate, and so that's why we also moved it back to 5 years. So those are the types of things I would ask as questions. Can you explain a little bit more about these different type of bullet points that you're looking to revise in your policy and how it protects not only the city, but how it is really driven on the safety of principal, liquidity of the funds, and the yields that we earn, the three guiding principles that we have in our policy.
Thank you.
Does that help answer your question about questions?
Yes.
Cool. I see Ms. Molly Clarence got some.
I think that's, great for Commissioner Knight to make that comment. I will say, just in our financial policies in general, the treasurer and I, and start talking to our deputy city comptroller as well about, we have all these policies in place. A lot of them came in after that Great Recession, and I look at them as they were put up as scaffolding, and now as we apply them and see the test of time, a lot of them are 10, 20, even 30 years old, or it's on us to go back, re-examine them, see, okay, how are we using these in practice? Are there loopholes, or are there other ways to, that things that we find important that we would recommend you as a body to adopt to, just to make sure we are financially sound and we are going after great investments in how we practice that, things like that. So, probably in the next few years, you'll see a couple other policies bubble up. We've always talked about the debt policy, and there's a big list of others. We were talking to our new deputy comptroller about actually at our meeting the other day. So yeah, I'll just say that generally, you guys might see a few more of these policies in the future.
Okay, that's good to know. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the comment too about continuity. I think, we deal with a lot of money at the city, and we want our residents to know that it's in good hands. And, I know that the team has, the knowledge to be able to do that, but I think having those credentials and the continuing education just shows to the public and provides even more legitimacy that we've got some awesome expert people on our team doing that. So appreciate that note.
And also, when we're done with, so after approval, seeking the approval, then we'll go out to these different organizations, the APTUSNC and the GIOA, and get those policies certified. We'll file for certification on those too. So we'll get that designation added to this as well in the future.
Awesome. All right. Well, I will call the question then. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? That carries. Thank you, Mr. Bolt. Item number 2, we've got a resolution approving a no-cost amendment to a joint funding agreement with the United States Geological Survey.
So moved.
Support?
All right, moved in support. We've got Mr. Berkman, our city engineer, here to tell us about this one.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. We've been working with the USGS to have a river level gauge and water quality station on the Grand River at the North Park Street Bridge. That station provides us important information as we plan and evaluate projects along the river. In January, Commission approved a new joint funding agreement that covers the station through September of 2027. However, at that time, there should have been an amendment to the original agreement for the water quality modeling and report that we're anticipating to extend that completion date from the end of 2024 to the end of 2025. And so this, seeking your approval of this no-cost amendment to that agreement.
Awesome. Thank you. Any questions or comments, colleagues? All righty. I will call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. Item number 3, we've got a resolution accepting a $5 million grant award from the State of Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity for improvements at Plaza Roosevelt and Roosevelt Park.
Support?
All right, moved and supported. We've got Mr. Marquardt here this morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is a direct appropriation from the state of Michigan that will be split amongst 2 different projects, the first of which is Plaza Roosevelt, currently under construction. And we are allocating $300,000 of this $5 million toward that project for a total of $2.3 million. This project will be completed by the end of this year, with final landscaping on the park project to be completed within the first couple of months of 2026. The second project is Roosevelt Park, and $2.5 million of park capital funding is going toward that project, and 4.7 of this direct allocation toward this project for a total of 7.2. And this project will go under construction starting in early 2026, with completion before the agreement termination of this with the state of Michigan by 2027.
Okay, thanks. And can you just very briefly remind maybe those watching what all that includes for the Roosevelt Park piece specifically? Because I know it's been a while since we've heard about that.
Yeah, definitely. The Roosevelt Park project will include primarily the renovation of the existing lodge facility and gym amenities, in addition to plaza redevelopment and park playground renovation.
Awesome. Super excited about that one. All right, any questions or comments on that one, colleagues? All righty, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. Item number 4, we've got a resolution authorizing fiscal year 2026 insurance renewals with various providers for a total cost of $3,249,378.
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. Eric Von Hatten here, Risk Manager. This is your annual insurance renewal package for fiscal year 26. This is a key component of our risk management strategy, ensuring that the city of Grand Rapids is adequately protected across all major liability asset categories. Our broker Gallagher worked closely with us to review multiple quotes on multiple policies and work closely to negotiate favorable terms in a stabilizing market. Likewise, the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Authority, MMRMA, did the same. They calculated our premium. We did see an increase in their premium. However, you'll see as we get into the summaries of our key policies that there has been some significant savings to the city overall. As a result, this is a portfolio that balances strong coverage, responsible cost containment. So let's jump into the summaries here. We'll start with our property insurance premium. That's with Chubb. Gallagher did go out to market on this to get quotes from multiple carriers, 10 or 15, I believe. A lot of the carriers wouldn't insure a municipality of our size. Other carriers would only insure portions of things that we needed, which meant we would have to go out to get other one or more carriers to satisfy the need for our coverage in that area. But overall, Chubb remained the best and most appropriate option for us. Because of the competitive market, our premium with Chubb did decrease this year to by 6.1%. That gives us a premium of $1.38 million this year. Another savings we saw with Chubb was we opted out of TRIA coverage with Chubb. TRIA is a terrorism risk insurance act that was established after the 9/11 events. In the 25 years or so that this has been available, there just hasn't been anything that's been paid on this type of policy. So and it's a government, the government is the one that determines what qualifies based on certain minimums and events, if you will. So we've gone with a standalone policy through Lloyd's of London. This premium is going to be $26,049. This is a more responsive policy than the federal TRIA. This is one that allows a carrier to have carrier-based claim decisions with no federal thresholds. Special events liabilities through Western World. This covers city-sponsored events like Veterans Day and Memorial Day parades. Most recently, we covered the birthday celebrations under this policy. As we continue to add more events to the city, we add them to this policy coverage. This year's premium is $3,925. Excess workers' compensation is through Midwest Employers. We are in a new 2-year agreement. The yearly premium for that is $195,171. This maintains a self-insured retention of $750,000. And what this is if we have a workers' compensation injury claim that reaches that threshold of $750,000, it gets transferred from our third-party administrator to Midwest for continuing handling of that claim. And speaking of our third-party administrator, we're using a company called CompOne. We are in the 3rd and final year of that contract renewal. This year's premium is $75,486. Additionally, we have government crime coverage through Hanover Insurance. This covers fraud, theft, employee dishonesty, cyber-related risks. This year's premium is $10,496. Pollution liability is through Beasley. This policy covers liabilities for landfills, treatment plants, asbestos, illegal dumping, things like that. This is a new policy. We are in the beginning of a 3-year prepaid policy. We're paying upfront $152,179. Over the next 3 years, the city will save just over $12,400 on that. Before I go on to MMRMA, I do want to introduce you to Brian Pierce. He's our account representative with Gallagher. He's standing here. I thought it'd be beneficial for him to come up and just kind of give a brief overview of how the city's doing insurance-wise and in the market, and then I'll come back when he's done. Brian?
Thank you.
Yep.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Brian Pierce, like Eric had mentioned, and I'm really excited to be here this morning to see all of you. My team and I actually sit in that building right over there, and we place the lines that Eric just went over for the city. Something we certainly don't take lightly. We are, with Gallagher, the 3rd largest broker in the world, the 1st largest in public entity. We very well know your space and are really excited to work with Eric going forward in the insurance. I think we really had some strong results this year, particularly starting in the summertime, kind of developing strategy to go over the renewal, particularly with property. So it drove a lot of savings there. Your insurance spend is largely made up of 2 different components. So there's the exposure piece, and then there's the rate side of things. So the exposure piece, the 2 largest lines being property and work comp. Property is largely driven by total insurable value, or your building values. Those went up significantly this year following our appraisal results. The work comp is largely driven by payroll, which is also up. So half of the equation is north. The other side of things, being the rate, is developed by really 5 different pieces, and the first being your losses. So Eric and his team have done a phenomenal job in terms of controlling losses for the city, particularly in property. You have no losses excess of your retention in the past 10 years. The next piece, largely not in your control. The next 3 pieces are not. Your class of business. Obviously, somebody who manufactures fireworks is going to have a significantly more costly insurance spend than a municipality. The next piece is your geography. So being in the Midwest, largely your insurance spend is less than if you were on the coast. The next piece is just the insurance marketplace as a whole. Another thing we don't have a ton of control over, but like Eric had mentioned, we have a market that is starting to stabilize. I wouldn't go as far as saying it's a soft market yet, but it's improving, which is great given kind of the last 3 to 5 years has been a pretty challenging market on the property side in particular. The last piece is my job, is how your story is told in the marketplace. So we started very, very early this year in the summertime following your appraisal, sitting down with Eric and his team and discussing strategy in terms of how we can frame the city's exposure best to the marketplace, which drove some really strong results this year. Lastly, I think the combination of the exposure and the rate drove overall savings to the city, which is great given the increase in total insurable value and payroll. And for that, I am grateful for the opportunity to be in front of you this morning and to continue to place your insurance. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Brian. Last thing on our renewals is going to be for our excess liability coverage through the MMRMA, Michigan Municipal Risk Management Authority. Our premium this year increased by 11.4%, so that gives us a premium of $1.3 million for them. We've been part of the MMRMA for quite some time, and there are a lot of value-added benefits associated with the MMRMA. One in particular is over the last 25 years, the city has seen over $770,000 in grant funding for various projects across various city departments. Additionally, every year we're eligible for a net asset distribution that the MMRMA gives back to its members. We can invest this money, we can use it for various risk mitigation projects. We can also credit our premium back. Because of our increase this year, I am going to rather credit back about $200,000 of that to our premium, which will save the city some money there as well. So I know I've talked a lot. I hope that you see that these strategic insurance renewals reflect strong fiscal stewardship and proactive risk management approach with our partners here at MMRMA and at Gallagher. This protects the city's physical assets, people, and operations while securing cost savings, broader coverage, and value-based benefits. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. Yeah, insurance isn't always the most glamorous thing to talk about, I know,
True.
but it's certainly essential.
It's important.
To make sure. Absolutely, yep. I have one quick question, but I'll turn to my colleagues first and see if they've anything. Just super quick on the TRIA piece. So we're no longer using that policy or that coverage, but you said that there's a kind of a comparable thing that we are using that provides similar coverage, but then gives the determination of what constitutes coverage under that back to us versus the federal government? Is that?
That is correct.
Okay.
Ryan, do you want to talk a little bit about TRIA?
Yeah, great. Sure. Thank you. Yeah, so great question. TRIA was enacted right after the 2001 terrorist attack on the World Trade Center. And ultimately, they said, we've got to create some kind of stop loss so that something like this, if it were to ever happen again, would be paid for. There's been a number of events that have happened since that bombing that have not triggered TRIA. For example, the Boston Marathon didn't trigger TRIA. So as an industry, we looked around and said, we need to find a better solution to this problem. And the answer was a standalone terrorism policy directly out of London. From a cost perspective, this policy is actually less expensive than what you were spending in TRIA, and it provides largely better coverage. Does that answer that?
Yep, absolutely. I mean, to your point, given recent events that we've seen since 2001, like there have been other forms of, terrorism. And so I just wanted to make sure that we have some sort of coverage, heaven forbid something like that happens,
Right.
Close to home. So just wanted to make sure that was still included.
Of course. Thank you.
All right. Well, I will call the question then. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. I know we've got coming up on time here, so we'll try and move through these as quickly as we can here. Item number 5, we've got series ordinance for water supply system improvement junior lien revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $18 million.
So moved.
Support?
All right, moved and support. Mr. Verbrugge, welcome.
Good morning. So the item before you is a series ordinance that would authorize the Water Department to issue up to $18 million in junior lien revenue bonds through the state's Drinking Water Revolving Fund. So those funds would be used for projects specifically in the city of Grand Rapids, primarily for lead line replacement, but also for some water main infrastructure replacement on the southeast side of the city, specifically Burton Street and Boston Street. Those bonds would be serviced by using water rates. It does not represent a general obligation for the city. It'd be a 20-year loan with an anticipated interest rate between 2 and 2.5%, and we do anticipate potential principal forgiveness of up to $4 million, which would bring the total bond down to $14 million. And I do want to note we did bring a notice of intent back to this, or before this commission back in May, and we have not received any comments on that. And I also want to note, when I brought that back in May, Commissioner Knight, you had asked about what happens if any of these projects go over budget. They do have a contingency built in, and if they do happen to go over budget, the Water Department does keep a cash reserve for capital projects that go a little bit over and need a little bit of help getting across that finish line. So we are prepared for that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, really
Go ahead.
thankful for these investments, especially as they are in the third ward, and we know that we've had some significant challenges with our infrastructure. So happy about that, and happy to hear the follow-up on Commissioner Knight's question, because that was going to be my question. So thank you.
Yes, thanks for that. All righty. Hearing no other questions, I will call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. Item number 6, we've got an ordinance amending Section 1 of the Budget Ordinance 2024-23, and that's for fiscal year 2025, and this is amendment number 9.
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. I'll turn to Ms. Molly Claren. First of all, I want to welcome her back. We were in great hands with our acting CFO during your time with family, but glad to have you back.
Yeah, of course. Well, as requested to put briefly, I'll go quick. The Water Career Program is the first item. We have, that's just an annual, just under $300,000 we're appropriating for the engineering department, another grant related to the training facility. We have rebalancing going on in our Vital Streets Capital Fund. And then number 4 is just appropriating the proceeds from the recent issuance of the soccer stadium and the gap funding for the amphitheater. So our contingent balance is at 0. So that is briefly what's going on with our amendments today.
Love it. Thank you. Colleagues, any questions? No. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. That'll bring us to item number 7. We've got our bid list resolution for June 10th, 2025.
So moved.
Support.
All right. Moved and supported. Back to Ms. Claren here.
Again, just a lot of routine items. If there are any questions, myself or the purchasing agent or the departments are here.
Yep, and I know there's a full list in the agenda packet too as well, in case people want to read through some of the specifics of those. So, colleagues, questions, discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. And then these last 3 items here, just a reminder, we don't need a motion. These are just reports that we'll then receive and file and then send on to our commission meeting this afternoon. Number 8, we've got our comptroller's warrant report for the period of May 6, 2025 through May 19, 2025 in the amount of $23,277,746.60 in our monthly travel. So I'll turn it over to our city comptroller, Mr. Max France.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
For the period referenced, cash payments were released totaling $23.27 million. This amount includes approximately $5.5 million for employee payroll-related payments and $1.37 million for income tax warrants. In terms of quantity, 5,658 income tax refunds were issued and 387 checks and electronic payments were issued. The funds detailed above were not issued by individuals in the City Comptroller's office and not issued in accordance with the terms of the city charter. The second report that I have here this morning is our April fiscal year-to-date travel summary report. And this report is showing that so far through the previous fiscal year, just over $1.5 million of $3.4 million budgeted was spent, or approximately 44%. And that's the 2 reports I have here today.
All right, thank you. We will receive and file those, which brings us to our treasurer's report for the period of May 8, 2025 through May 27th of 2025.
Good morning, Commissioners. With the report today, just to briefly highlight, I still have concerns about the growing budget deficits we're talking about, the Moody's downgrade and items like that at the federal level. I do see that the interest rates are going to still remain unchanged right now. There's no movement with the Fed yet with different directions that the government is taking and where the economy is headed. The biggest change you're going to see on this report is if you look at the portfolio segment where we've pulled in all of the monies for the parking ramp, the amphitheater, the soccer stadium bond issues that we have. And so those were added to our portfolio, which stands at $776 million, and we're earning 3.45% on those.
All right, thanks. We'll receive and file that. And then similar vein, number 10, our last item here, we've just got a report of bond sale. It's $122,270,000 Series 2025 capital improvement bonds, and those are for the soccer stadium and our amphitheater projects. Let's see.
Yeah, usually Tricia would be up here, but I believe
okay.
she's in ERP meetings and
No worries.
as we're still getting the rollout going. But yes, I wasn't here. My deputy CFO managed the sale of the bonds with $122 million, which was a huge lift for the city, but they performed really well. We had Huntington Securities as our underwriter. And PNC Capital Markets and Fifth Third came in as co-managers. We performed really well with our rating agencies, managed to maintain our AA rating. I believe we talked about this before, but these bonds are backed by the hotel hotel motel tax from the county. We have an agreement with the county and also put in place safeguards that I believe Ms. Behrens, our deputy city manager, has explained, where we have a kind of a rainy day fund to ensure, we'll have a little insulation should we hit hard economic times and that revenue stream is hit before the city's impacted. One thing just to reflect, we include the reports of sale behind this. If you look at the true interest cost, it's just below 4.7% with an average coupon of 5%. Ty was just up here talking about our junior lien bonds we get through the state revolving fund. And it's, we do leverage that junior lien a lot because, as he was saying, it was 2 to 2.5%. So it is such a good deal to partner and go out there for bonds as well. Whereas when we go alone on our Geo credit, which is still really good for what we were issuing and the size, but that gives you an idea of how that is such a great program for us. So.
Awesome. Thanks for that. And I know we've got a couple minutes here. So I guess for those listening in, I know the most important piece I want to reiterate is the fact that these bonds are backed by the revenue from the hotel motel excise fee. So could you just maybe highlight sort of how that works, how it's captured, how we then apply that to the payment of these bonds and so on and so forth?
Sure. They're still limited tax general obligations. So they are against our full faith and credit. So we are ultimately responsible. The county increased their hotel motel tax from 5% to 8%. That delta, that 3%, has been designated as these bonds are first obligation on that. They have to be paid, out of that. So we set up a partnership with the county where the revenue, we basically invoice them actually quite early before the payments due. I believe we expect to receive the money is like 5 months before, just to make sure the money's there and we can pay it. But they also, in that time frame, they also are funding that debt reserve. That debt reserve. I'm out of practice. I'm forgetting about the microphone. That debt reserve we have. So they funded that with. They funded that with their hotel motel tax, and then we invoice them for the payments. So we always have that pot of money sitting there. As we do the payments, we make sure we still have that revenue coming from the county. So it is like I said, we did put a lot of safeguards in for the city, and we do have an order of priority on that 3%, where this is the. I know they plan to do, as that 3%, the proceeds of what they get annually will grow over time, and they want to do other large capital projects with it. Ours bonds will be the first ones to get paid before the subsequent obligations on that. So, yes.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks for elaborating. I know when we were talking about authorizing the issuance of these bonds for these projects, some people I think had the misunderstanding that this was coming out of taxpayer money, general fund, things like that. So just always want to be clear that is very much not the case. So appreciate the information. So alrighty, that wraps up our business here today. We'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting. It is 9:07. We'll see some of you guys back in here at 9:15 for community development.
9:15, and we're going to go ahead and start our Community Development Committee meeting. Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning.
All are doing well. We have a number of items, so buckle up. First is a resolution approving a fireworks discharge permit for Strictly FX LLC for indoor special effects at the Van Andel Arena in connection with WWE SmackDown on June 20th, 2025. Do you have a motion?
So moved. Support.
Oh, wow, got the fire chief. This
All
is
right.
a big one.
Good morning.
The WWE SmackDown, yes.
Yeah, just standing in for Ted Jensen. So I will tell you, though, WWE has a very comprehensive packet they put together. They are going to be doing lasers, flames, cryogenics, and smoke. Ted has already reviewed the plan, and then we're going to be there at 3 o'clock to do a dry run, and we will be there during the event as well. So recommend approval of this one.
Okay, wonderful. Colleagues, questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2 is a resolution approving a fireworks discharge permit for Arthur Rossi Pyrotechnics for outdoor special effects at the Gillette Bridge in connection with the 4th of July celebration on July 5th, 2025.
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported. Chief?
Really excited about this one, obviously. A big event for our community. Worked with this group for quite a few years. And again, we'll be on site. Ted will be out on the bridge, and we have multiple units downtown, and expect a nice, safe, fun event for our community.
Thank you. Questions, colleagues?
Always an event we look forward to.
Absolutely.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3 is a resolution consenting to the vacation of Summer Avenue from Lake Michigan Drive to Bloomrick Street, Allen Street from Summer Avenue to Mount Vernon Avenue, Bloomrick Street from Summer Avenue to Mount Vernon Avenue, and Mount Vernon Avenue Alley from Allen Street to Bloomrick Street.
So moved.
Support. Mr. Berkman?
Yes, good morning, Commissioners.
Sorry, had to catch my bearings.
So, all of this being done in anticipation of the Amway Soccer Stadium, of which construction is underway. And in April of last year, Commission approved an encroachment agreement anticipating this eventual vacation request that's in front of you. In February of this year, the construction agreement was approved that covers work on public infrastructure. So our sanitary sewer, water main, storm sewer, street lighting, street improvements affected by the construction of the stadium. The street and alley vacation request, per policy, has been circulated to the appropriate departments and utility companies, and there are no objections. Utilities that are within the vacated areas are either being relocated or protected with easements. So the owners of the real property abutting the affected areas by this vacation request have been notified by Grand Action Foundation 2.0. They're the ones who are making the formal request to you. And Grand Action represents that they have consented to this vacation request as well. So included within the resolution of this item is a $40,000 required escrow deposit that will cover the costs associated with filing the amended plat, recognizing the vacated right-of-ways, as well as city costs associated with administering it. So seeking your approval of the resolution, which provides for the city's consent to these vacations. It also will terminate the encroachment agreement that was previously approved upon the completion of that vacation process.
Questions, colleagues?
For those of us who speak lay person, what does vacation mean? Because I'm not going to the Bahamas, and I don't think they are either.
Right. June and July means something very different when you're talking vacation. So vacation is basically eliminating the public right-of-way that exists today. So public rights-of-way cover street corridors, in particular, the ones mentioned here in the subject title of this resolution. But that will eliminate basically the public right-of-way and allow for construction to occur. So the stadium will sit where some of these road right-of-ways exist today.
Do you know how that's going to impact Gin Gin's or the art supply store that's right there? Because Bloomrick is right there.
And in the packet, there is an exhibit that shows exactly the limits of the streets that are being vacated. It might be easiest to reference that. So for those watching or listening, page 13 of the packet. So Bloomrick will continue between winter and summer. So then you could continue north on summer to get up to Bridge Street, if that helps answer your question.
Right, and this is permanent, this is not a temporary
Correct.
change in the traffic flow and
Right.
and whatnot. Okay.
Yeah, so that's the exhibit that the clerk has pulled up. And those that are hatched are the corridors that are being vacated.
Thank you for the description for everyone who might be watching.
Hearing no other questions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4 is a resolution approving a special community enhancement grant agreement with the State of Michigan for 30 Division Avenue Areaway abandonment in the amount of $527,000.
So moved. Support.
So this areaway is located along the Division Avenue frontage of the Grand Rapids Civic Theater. And for those who aren't familiar with areaways, those are underground vaults that often located beneath sidewalks within the city right-of-way, which were historically used for coal storage or other purposes, and they're very old and in many cases in poor condition. So it's a good practice when we have a street reconstruction project that comes along the corridor to go through the process of abandoning those and filling those in. A $527,000 community enhancement grant was supporting this abandonment, and the associated sidewalk improvement that'll go over the top of it has been obtained from the state. It's being administered through the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, or LEO. This will support the total project cost estimated at just under $835,000. Portions of the work are also being financed by our Vital Streets Fund as part of the Division Avenue project. So seeking your approval of this resolution, which approves the grant agreement with the state.
Thanks, Mr. Bergman. Questions, colleagues? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5 is a resolution approving an increase of $150,000 for LaGrave Bridge and Chester Fire Station facade improvements for a total not to exceed $679,570.
So moved. Support.
This project was awarded in August of 2024 to RAM Construction Services, looking to improve facade at 3 fire stations, LaGrave, Bridge, and Chester. Bridge was completed last fall. LaGrave, we're about 70% complete. And once we're done with LaGrave, we'll move over to Chester. The LaGrave station is over 114 years old and required some extensive facade repairs already. And during the renovation, once we got into the walls, we discovered the steel supporting columns had a significant amount of oxidation or rust on them, which significantly impacts and reduces their structural integrity. So we're seeking this increase of $150,000 from you to complete these essential repairs, in addition to the additional mortar and brick replacement that was required at LaGrave.
Colleagues, questions?
What budget is absorbing the cost?
Capital Improvement Fund, I believe it should be referenced at the end of the memo. Capital Improvement Fund Facilities Management line item.
Hearing no other questions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6 is a resolution awarding an agreement with Owen Ames Kimball Company for Calder Plaza enhancements and waterproofing and authorizing services in the amount of $66,046 with a total amount not to exceed $1,825,630.
So moved. Support.
Mr. Bergman?
So as you're well aware, this past weekend, we celebrated the city's 175th birthday, which as the first full weekend in June would have been Festival of the Arts. And want to acknowledge that and the fact that Calder Plaza has been a significant city asset since 1969 when the Grand Vitas was installed, and that served as the inspiration to this, the first Festival of the Arts that was held downtown celebrating the arts in West Michigan. So now we're advancing a project that continues that legacy as we reimagine and further enhance this very key community space. And this is really a continuation of multiple projects that have been completed or are ongoing. Over the past 5 years, the city's added an elevator on the south end of the plaza from within the Government Center ramp. We've completed repairs and repainting of the LeGrand Vitas. We updated wayfinding around the ramp and within the ramp. We've continued implementation of our asset management plan for the plaza, and most recently at your last meeting, you authorized additional funding for the elevator connector that's in the Monroe lobby to extend all the way up to the plaza level within the county building. All of these projects are improvements that were needed to bring this 1969 site up to community expectations. Now the project before you, there are really two main categories associated with it. So the deck replacement, which includes waterproofing, but then also enhancements to the plaza itself. Enhancements that are being considered at this point include added green space, increased shade, dedicated event space, daily gathering spaces, accessibility improvements, and more. Now that we're completed with the concept phase, the project is ready to move into the design services phase, and it's time to bring a construction manager on board to help guide us through that process and assist in determining the full scope of enhancements that we can incorporate within the project. So we issued an RFP for a construction manager, utilized a qualifications-based selection process to evaluate the respondents, and the team selected OAK as the highest-ranked qualified firm. So the resolution before you enters into that agreement for construction management services, first authorizing the pre-construction phase services in the amount of $66,046, with that total not to exceed amount that was read of just over 1.8 million, rolling into that the cost of the design services, administration, and contingencies at this point. Financing will come from the Capital Improvement Fund, the Facilities Management Capital Fund, which includes Kent County's share, the Parking System Fund, and the DDA.
Thanks, Mr. Bergman. Questions, colleagues? If not, I had one question. The 1.8, so that includes the elevator, the other enhancements that are happening, or is a 1.8 just on a Calder?
Just on the Calder.
Okay.
The authorization last meeting was a separate project,
Okay.
separate funding source.
Thanks. So if we think about kind of what are the enhancements overall to the city, what was that number again? I don't remember that number.
I'd have to compile it. As far as that list that I read, those were multiple projects, but
Right.
we can pull
Was
that.
it last summer that we did the crosswalk lighting here in between City Hall, or was that 2 years ago?
I feel like it's longer than that. 4 years ago,
4 years?
I see
Really?
from Mr. Bartlett in the
Wow,
back.
that went that long?
Yeah.
Thank you for that. No, just thinking about kind of, again, what have been in those enhancements? How do we make the space more usable for individuals and some of the wayfinding? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7 is a resolution awarding a contract with Superior Asphalt, Inc. for as-needed surface lot services with total amount not to exceed $500,000.
Support.
Mr. Bergman, thank you.
So this is the first of multiple as-needed term agreements that are before you on this agenda. This one specifically dealing with city-owned surface parking lots, of which we have over 3.4 million feet in the system. Those are owned by various departments, including mobile GR, parks, facilities, fire, cemeteries, and water. The total replacement value of all that is just under $24 million, as identified in our asset management plan. So this as-needed contract allows for smaller repairs and improvements to be made to those lots. Larger projects would be bid out, but we can do the smaller ones under this. Superior Asphalt provided the only bid on this project, and based on an evaluation of their unit prices, their experience and past performance, we're recommending that the contract be awarded to them with a total not to exceed authorization of $500,000. In this case, and in all of the other items that are going to be coming to you next with these term agreements, we looked at previous agreements utilization and setting what that ceiling should be, also considering an increase for labor and material costs. Costs utilized for small projects under this would be charged to the appropriate departments for which the services are required.
Questions, colleagues? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8 is a resolution awarding a contract with J-Rank Electric, Inc. for traffic signal and rectangular rapidly flashing beacon improvements at various locations in the amount of $2,048,999.20 with a total amount not to exceed $2,932,000.
Support.
So under this project, 4 new signals are being installed at Division and Andre, Lake and Carlton, Pearl and Monroe, and Pearl and Front, and then new rectangular rapidly flashing beacons being installed at Leonard and Fremont and Wealthy and Barth. J. Rank provided the low bid of $2,048,999, which was just over the engineer's estimate by about $22,000. They will be utilizing an MLBE for the concrete work on the project, totaling just over $96,000. So seeking your approval of the contract award to J. Rank with that total amount not to exceed of $2,932,000 coming from the Vital Streets Fund, traffic safety portion, and the parking system fund.
Questions, colleagues? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9 is a resolution awarding as-needed contracts with Abatement and Demolition Services LLC, ProTech Environmental, Inc., and Demolition Contractors, Inc., doing business as Pitch Wrecking Company and Pitch Companies for hazardous materials abatement and demolition services at various facilities with a total amount not to exceed $1.5 million.
So moved.
Support.
So we used this pretty heavily on the 1500 Scribner project. You heard about increases on this before. Now this is a new term agreement that we went out for bid on and utilizing it for just what it says, as needed asbestos, lead, and mold abatement services, as well as some selective demolition at our city-owned facilities. These provide an efficient means to handle the abatement that align with industry and federal regulations when we encounter these materials during our renovation projects. We received proposals from ADS, ProTech, and Pitch and recommend the award to all three with the not-to-exceed amount of $1.5 million. This and all the other term agreements are for a one-year period, but they give the right to extend at the city's option an additional one-year period up to a maximum of 3 upon successful negotiations with the contractor.
Questions, colleagues? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10 is a resolution awarding as-needed contracts with BVR Restoration, Inc. and M1 Limited, Inc., doing business as Mark 1 Restoration Services, Inc., for as-needed concrete and facade restoration at various locations with a total amount not to exceed of $2 million.
So moved.
So this agreement handles our as-needed concrete and facade restoration work associated with repairs or improvements at our parking ramps or other city-owned and operated facilities. Having received proposals from BVR Mark 1, we recommend a contracts be awarded to each. The not-to-exceed amount of $2 million, again, was based on previous utilization of this contract, and again, for a period of 1 year with the option to extend up to 3 maximum term.
Questions, colleagues? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 11 is a resolution awarding Dave Boltzma and Associates, Inc., doing business as Boltzma EV Construction Company, McGraw Construction, Inc., Owens Ames Kimball Company, Ram Construction Services of Michigan, Inc., and Whelan Corporation, doing business as Whelan, for as-needed general construction services at various locations with a total amount not to exceed of $2 million.
So moved.
Support.
We use this for interior room reconfigurations, kitchen renovations, general trades, carpentry work, door and window replacements, some minor mechanical, electrical, plumbing type services that we need to have performed on city-owned facilities. Having this in place allows for projects to be authorized and completed in an efficient manner. We received proposals from the 6 contractors that were read and recommend awarding a contract to each with the total amount not to exceed $2 million.
Questions, colleagues?
So just for clarity, because we've had a couple of these where there's multiple, it does mean that you can use whichever one you want as you go.
Right.
And this, it's like a bucket of money that you can choose to contract at any time with each one of them, yes?
Correct. So we'll put out a request for a proposal to these, and they may not all respond because they might be busy, but we have established unit price items for certain commonly used items. We have labor rates, and so then they'll all submit a quote, and we can execute it basically under this.
Right, because we've streamlined the process
Correct.
to be more efficient. Got it. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 12 is a resolution accepting a sidewalk and utility easement at 415 Sheldon Avenue Southeast for $1.
So moved.
This easement was required as part of a site plan approval for an apartment building that's going in at the southwest corner of Wealthy and Sheldon. The approximately 5-foot wide easement will allow for the sidewalk to be installed along the Wealthy frontage. So seeking your approval for the acceptance of that easement.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 13 is a resolution granting a gate valve easement to DTE at 850 Pinnell Street Northwest for $1.
Some support.
Bergman?
DTE is upgrading their natural gas systems in the Panel Street right-of-way, which include the installation of a gate valve. This will be located at the northwest corner of the Fire Training Center property, just inside the other side of the right-of-way line, essentially. So asking for your approval of this resolution, which will grant that easement to DTE.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 14 is a resolution confirming the Uptown Business Improvement District Special Assessment Roll Number 8796.
I'll move.
Support.
Moved and supported. Ms. Jastifer?
Good morning. So this is confirming the special assessment for the Uptown Business Improvement District. This is the first year of a 5-year plan that was approved on March 25th, 2025. So we sent properties affected notices back in April 4th, and we had an open appeal process. The roll was open for public inspection for at least 2 weeks, and the City Commission convened as the Board of Review to hear appeals on May 20th. We had one appeal. It was reviewed by the city assessor and the city attorney's office, and we were recommending denying this appeal as it was calculated according to the plan, and affirming special assessment roll 8796 in the amount of $122,542. And upon confirmation, it will be billed on the summer tax statement, July 1st.
Thank you. Questions for Ms. Jastifer? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 15 is a resolution setting Tuesday, July 15th, 2025 at 2 p.m. as the date for the public hearing for the City Commission to sit as the Board of Review to hear appeals on the special assessment for the Downtown Improvement District Roll 8798.
So moved.
Moved and supported. Ms. Jastifer?
So this is for the second special assessment district, similar to the Uptown Business Improvement District. This is the Downtown Improvement District, and this is about 1,200 properties that are affected. And notices were sent out to those properties on June 3rd, and the assessment roll is currently open for public inspection. And we're asking that we have the public hearing on July 15th to hear any appeals.
Thank you. Questions, colleagues? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Our last item for today is a resolution scheduling a public hearing for July 15th, 2025 to consider a brownfield plan amendment for the Robinson Flats redevelopment project located at 1407, 1409, and 1417 Robinson Road Southeast.
So moved.
Moved and supported. Mackenzie, I'm sorry, I don't remember your last name.
Miller.
Miller, that was so easy. Okay, Ms. Miller.
Thank you. Good morning. This request is related to the Robinson Flats project, which consists of demolition of an existing building and construction of a new approximately 32,000 square foot mixed-use building with about 24 apartments, surface level parking, and 3 commercial spaces. So this is a project that was brought before the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority meeting on May 28th, 2025. And so this is ultimately the next step is to schedule their public hearing scheduled for July 15th at 2 p.m. here in the City Commission offices. The total project cost for this particular deal is about $8.2 million, and eligible activities of approximately $1.5 million. And the other exciting piece about this deal is all 24 units are slated to be reserved for individuals that are making between 90 and 100% of area median income for Kent County. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks.
Is this the new apartment building that's being built where the Dominican Center Across from Aquinas? No, it's down the road from there? Okay, thank you.
Hearing and seeing no other questions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And with that, we can now adjourn at 9:40 a.m.
whole will come to order. And we are going to move slightly out of order out of respect for a community member who's running late. So the first item we will take up is item number 2 on our agenda, and that is presentation of our Dr. Schnorr Scholarship Award.
Good morning. My name is Ty James, and I'm the Training and Organizational Development Manager for the city. This morning, I'm honored to present the Dr. Schnorr Scholarship Award. Established in 1954 by Dr. Elmer Schnorr, a former city physician, this scholarship was created to support the educational aspirations of graduating high school seniors who are dependents of city employees. The award provides $1,000 to assist with first-year tuition at any college or university accredited by the North Central Association of Schools and Colleges or the American Council of Education. The Dr. Schnorr Scholarship is awarded to a student who demonstrates a strong academic record, meaningful involvement in school and community activities, and clearly defined personal goals and aspirations. The recipient is selected by a committee from Grand Rapids Public Schools following a comprehensive review of each applicant's qualifications. The recipient is selected, or this year, the scholarship is awarded to Madison Washington, daughter of City Manager Mark Washington. Madison stood out through her exceptional academic performance, commitment to community service, glowing teacher recommendations, and an impressive record of volunteer work. So please join me in congratulating Madison Washington as the 2025 recipient of the Dr. Schnorr Scholarship Award. So what I'd like to do is actually, at this time, have the City Commission come on up and share in a picture with Madison and her family to recognize this achievement.
Mayor, may I have a point of personal privilege?
No chance.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to, first of all, thank the committee for the Dr. Schnorr Scholarship Award. I think several of them are here in the audience today. And if they could just raise their hand, I want to thank GRPS for their work. And just a couple things. One, it's always an honor to help city employees. And today, I recalled this morning when I was sitting right there interviewing, right where Madison was standing initially for this job, I was asked 2 questions. One, would I live in the city? As that was a concern to make sure appointees and employees, as many possible, live in the city. And second, would I send my kids to Grand Rapids Public Schools? And I immediately responded yes to both. And I want to acknowledge Miss Washington today because she didn't get this because she's the daughter of the city manager, as there were no other city employees involved in the selection process. She got it because she is an outstanding young person who is one of the valedictorians of her high school at City Middle High. She's also co-class president. She has never made a B in her entire life on a report card. And she's also team captain of her volleyball team and track team, and will be attending the University of Michigan in the fall and hopes to be like our city attorney and an attorney someday. So I'm very proud of her and want to thank everyone for recognizing her.
Thank you. And this brings us to next item of business, which is resolution recommending approval of the Liquor Control Commission by the MLCC of a social district for Twisted Tap Distillery at 146 Monroe Center.
So moved.
Commissioner Clerk Hondo?
Yeah, so this is like very similar ones that we have, permit application. This allows them to sell their drinks in a marked cup to move about the social district. So very successful program so far. I don't think we've had any issues with it in any of our social districts. So just gives other opportunities to enjoy downtown in our business districts in a social way.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. That brings us to our next item, which is the resolution approving Commissioner Perdue's request to attend the National League of Cities conference in Salt Lake in November of this year. And just so that my colleagues know, I intend to ask to go to that too, and I intend to attend, but I haven't made the request yet. So any discussion about that?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Now I'm going to go out of order again. I don't know if our Pride Center representative is here yet?
Not just yet.
Okay. Then, if I could, I'm going to kick this, we're going to kick over to a briefing. And City Manager, you want to take this? We're going to do a briefing on the update on the Grand Rapids Land Bank.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a follow-up to several discussions that we've had, both at special work sessions, even in the budget process, on the changing of the land bank, which is now under the leadership of many of the members on the Brownfield Authority, and Ms. Behrens has been lead in making this transition and would like to lead us in an update, and then we'll come back to the action that's on the agenda.
Thank you, and standing in for Sarah Venero, who is at a conference this morning. So just quickly, the item on your agenda for action today is an update to the agreement, intergovernmental agreement that was signed authorized a few months ago to allow the city to take over the land bank properties that had been managed by the state. That document laid out some of the parameters, one of which was around membership. So you'll see there kind of the big chunk of text in the middle of the frame is the new language. Old language said there would be 5 directors, and so we had to update that to 7 based on commission direction as you considered the governance of the local land bank. So originally, the Grand Rapids Land Bank was authorized under subsection B, a resolution of the City Commission that appointed the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority Board to be the board of the local land bank. In March, you directed a transition from that startup board to a permanent board, separately appointed officials that would be a 7-member board. So we needed that change in the state agreement. So that is what is in front of you, authorizing an amendment to that intergovernmental agreement. Just a quick update on the work that's been done by the startup board. I guess we could call it a startup board. They are continuing to get some of the foundational pieces in place. So as we took over the portfolio of slightly more than 90 properties, we needed to find ways to both maintain those properties and to advertise and make available to the public knowledge about the properties, how to apply for those. So a number of steps have been authorized by the startup board, including a contract for listing services, maintenance services, and legal services. We also have created a website that you can now find from the city's website webpage that has a lot of information about each of the properties, as well as the ability to create a profile and then submit your interest in any particular property. We are also going through the step of making it more transparent to the public and to especially adjacent neighbors who owns those lots, if there are any issues with them. So we're both posting signs on some of the lots and sending cards to adjacent property owners if there's an issue that needs to be addressed, that we are the owners and to let us know. Just a snapshot here, or screenshot here of the website where you can find out more about each of the properties. So the website is there, but you can also find it if you search for local land bank on our city website. And it has a lot of information about the properties and some preliminary information about the zoning and the buildability and photographs of the property. So again, encourage folks to take a look. We talked about this in the budget adoption, but the startup board did also propose a budget, which the commission approved. And for fiscal year 2026, we anticipate to continue to be focused on the big picture objective of finding ways for these properties to be productive and productive for the communities that they are a part of and benefit folks already living in those communities. We expect that to mean that we continue to find out information and publicize information about that portfolio, that we continue to strengthen the administrative and policy infrastructure around how we're managing those properties. I think, as I talked about before, really focusing in on the disposition policy. So we already have 90+ properties, 96 properties. What are our priorities for getting those out into productive use? And the startup board has adopted a disposition policy. As we continue to have experience with that board and align that board's mission with other affordable housing and economic development objectives of the City Commission, then they can start developing an acquisition strategy that, as I've talked about before, tends to be a little bit more controversial. And so really want to make sure we have good alignment with the vision and mission of the city overall and the community master plan as we contemplate those kinds of additional policies, which the new board will take over. And then continuing to expand on community engagement and communication efforts to understand the opportunities presented, including at your next commission night out, we anticipate having a table that will have more information about the local land bank and the land bank properties. So that is it. That's just a little update.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from colleagues? Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks, Ms. Behrens. Thanks for this update, and I want to, again, give appreciation to the Economic Development Department and to Mr. Doug Booth for their work. I know it's been only a couple of months, but a lot has happened, and just wanted to share with this body here, our Brownfield body, as we work to identify those individuals for the independent body, still committed to supporting that work as we go into, most likely it might not be till August as we work through the appointment. So I just wanted to share that perspective. And I think Ms. Behrens, I'm pretty sure that Ms. Raniero would be sharing this, but we could give this to our body, the Brownfield Authority, so that they can just have a highlight of what was presented here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I don't know if my colleagues saw, but on our little briefing, the one thing you didn't get to, perhaps, Ms. Barron, was that we've been working through coming up with individuals. Oh, it wasn't on the briefing. Sorry, I saw 9 and I got lost. But we are working on discussing folks to be part of a shifted board. Correct? Thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner Perdue.
Good morning. Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about thank you for the update, first of all, and happy to see progress based on conversations we've had over the course of the year. As you know, I've shared before that, our acquisition strategy, our North Star, is really of utmost importance to me, and I'm hearing that this new board would take that up. So really excited that we're taking a more inclusive approach to building that. Can you talk, though, a little bit about in maintenance of the website, what folks can expect? And I'm really flagging this because there was conversation around the progress around this, but a lot of the properties that were being advertised were not available, already under contract, and so it really created a lot of snafus for folks who really want to take advantage of this program.
Yeah, so it should be able to let folks know what the status of those properties are. So if folks are finding problems with the website, this is a new platform. The one that that I just showed the screenshot of is new, different than the State Land Bank platform. So I'm not sure if those issues were with the state platform or with our new platform, but certainly communicate back to us and we'll make sure it's as seamless as possible.
Yeah, I think it was for our local one, but I think you have some staff that saw the chatter online and responded. So just want to make sure we have some standard operating procedures that make sure that the information is most up to date for folks.
Yep. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Sorry. Okay, seeing no one else, thank you. And I think I will move us backwards to the resolution on this issue, which is our item number 5, the resolution approving a First Amendment to the intergovernmental
Mayor?
agreement.
If I may, the Pride Center is here.
Great.
If we can move.
We're just going to vote this out.
On this first,
Just
okay.
have the briefing on this, and then we'll,
Okay.
thank you, though.
Sounds good, thank you.
Intergovernmental agreement with the State Land Bank Authority and City of Grand Rapids to modify the Grand Rapids Land Bank Authority composition.
So moved.
Support.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. And that brings us back to item number 1, which was our Pride Month proclamation. And I'd like to go to the dais and be joined by my colleague Commissioner Kilgore and Brandon Davis from our Office of Inclusion and representative of the Pride Center. Commissioners and public, whereas Grand Rapids is dedicated to fostering a welcoming and inclusive environment for all individuals, particularly those in the 2SLGBTQ+ community, and whereas the city's commitment to equity and fairness extends to all citizens, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression. And whereas the contributions of Two-Spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and all other related individuals are vital to the rich cultural, economic, and social fabric of Grand Rapids, and those individuals deserve to feel safe, free from discrimination, and are able to live without fear of harassment. And whereas, while the 2SLGBTQ+ community has made significant progress, there remains ongoing work to ensure true equity, inclusion, and acceptance for every member of our community. And whereas Third Ward Commissioner Marshall Kilgore was elected in November 2024 and holds the distinction of being the first elected representative for the city of Grand Rapids who is openly part of the 2SLGBTQ+ community. And whereas the Grand Rapids Pride Center has indicated that the theme for this year's Pride Month, Break Free, serves as a powerful reminder that individuals do not require permission to exist, thrive, and love authentically. It's a declaration against silence in the face of disenfranchisement and erasure, and a commitment to creating spaces where joy and resistance flourish throughout Grand Rapids. Now, therefore, I, David LeGrand, Mayor of the City of Grand Rapids, do hereby proclaim June 2025 as 2SLGBTQ+ Pride Month in Grand Rapids and urge all residents to join in celebrating and supporting our dynamic 2SLGBTQ+ community. Y'all want to come up for a picture? Okay. Did you want to have remarks? Yeah. No. Okay.
Hi, nice to see you.
We invite the representative from Pride Yard to go ahead as well. Mayor, if I can for a second, we do also want to just thank. Sure. We do also want to just make sure that we thank Pride GR, which is an employee research group here at the City of Grand Rapids that does amazing work in our organization to make sure that the members of the 2S LGBTQ plus community are not only represented, but they're advocated for, and they hold the city accountable in that space. Additionally, we're grateful for the work of the Pride Center and the partnership we have with them that allows us to continue this great work. So thank you for that as well.
Yeah, right? There you go.
All right. Thank you.
You need a motion to go to closed session. Yep. Yeah, that's what we should. Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
no. For you?
Okay, that's what-
No, he just wanted to make sure we didn't forget. And that brings us to our last item of business.
Mayor,
which-
if I may have a point of.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, absolutely. Commissioner Kilgore.
Thank you very much. So, good morning, everyone. First off, thank you, Mayor, for letting me share a few thoughts on Pride Month and why it's so important, especially right now. Thank you so much to the Grand Rapids Pride Center for joining us today and the amazing work you all have done for our community since 1988. Pride Month started with a riot and is now more than ever. We know it serves as a protest and a strong rebuke of homophobia, hatred, and prejudice in our nation. June holds a special meaning for us as it marks the anniversary of Stonewall, the Stonewall Uprising on June 28, 1969, which was a pivotal moment in the fight for LGBTQ plus rights. The first Pride March took place in 1970, and it wasn't until 1999 that Pride Month was officially recognized. Despite the then mayor's refusal here in Grand Rapids to support the city's first Pride, it was a small but mighty gathering at the Monroe Amphitheater, now known as Rosa Parks Circle. Over the years, thanks to the Grand Rapids Pride Center, our Pride celebration has grown into one of the city's biggest events, showcasing the strength and resilience of our LGBTQ plus community and their allies. As the first openly LGBTQ plus member of our city commission, I bring our shared experiences into every decision I make, and I believe that we must continue to advocate for common sense legislation and ordinances to ensure everyone can live freely. Our work is far from over. We need to support our trans neighbors who are being targeted and mistreated daily. Ignoring the hate and discrimination that persists in our nation is not an option. Together, we must raise our voices against injustice and ensure our LGBTQ plus community and all Grand Rapidians know that they have a safe and welcoming place here in our city. Remember, you matter and you are loved. And again, happy Pride Month, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. That brings us to the final item on our agenda, and I'll hand this off to the city manager also, I believe. Well, it looks like maybe Luke Canfield, maybe not Luke Canfield.
Mayor, thank you. We have a couple of people who's going to help us with this presentation today. But before we begin, let me just thank all the commissioners who were able to come out this past weekend and help us celebrate our 175th anniversary. It was a great day, well attended, and we'll hear a little bit more about that here shortly. But I do want to also thank all the staff that was able to come out and participate. We had just about every department represented, lots of community organizations, and there are a few people that I'd like to especially recognize before this briefing, and you'll be hearing from at least two of them. One is Assistant City Manager Doug Matthews, who pulled my coat about a year ago when we were formulating the budget for 2025, indicating we should make sure that there's some funding and an effort to celebrate our 175th anniversary. And then secondly, to Luke Canfield, who has been instrumental on helping us focus not only on 175th for Grand Rapids, but the 250th anniversary for America, which our mayor is also co-chairing that effort, which we'll celebrate. And I think we started something because I was speaking to the county administrator. Now, Kent County is going to celebrate, I think they were founded in 1836. So whatever year that is, next year, in 2026, they too will have some type of celebration that I anticipate. So look forward to that. But I do want to specifically recognize Ms. Pittman, who was very instrumental in quarterbacking a lot of the events this weekend. So thank you for that, for your help. So we'll hear from Mr. Matthews first on 175, and then Mr. Canfield.
Thank you, sir. And in full disclosure, Ms. Pittman may have tugged at my coat before I tugged at your coat.
Everyone needs a tugger.
That's right. And who needs an excuse to throw a party, right? So, as we've talked about, technically May 2nd, 2025 is the day that the city became a city. So that was the 175th anniversary. Given the opportunity that we had to really use that opportunity to kick off the summer, we held that event on Saturday, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then, of course, on July 4th of 26 will be the 250th anniversary of the signing of the U.S. Declaration of Independence. So I'm going to talk about 175 here. I'm probably going to invite Ms. Pittman up to talk a little bit about it as well. And just to talk a little bit about our approach on this. Yes, we did make a case that we needed to put some money aside. As you all know, having just gone through the budget process, sometimes you don't get as much as you hope for, which necessitated some creativity on our part that actually has resulted in some pretty interesting concepts for our celebration. We did this in coordination with a number of community institutions and organizations that included conversations with the America 250 community. One of the things that we decided to do, which is fairly unusual, is rather than decide that this was really a party for us, this is really a celebration of the community. The city government is an institution that was created by the community. So we felt like it was rather selfish for us to then claim the birthday as our own. That started with the branding. We worked with a local artist to develop all the branding around the 175th. And then we took all of those logos and we published them with a Creative Commons license and invited the entire community to use them however they want. That was in recognition of the fact, number one, that we don't run restaurants, we don't have retail stores. We shouldn't be making decisions on how they might want to utilize this opportunity to promote and take advantage of. And number two, we're also not in the business of merchandising. So this gives anybody in the community who might want to create merchandise utilizing these logos a business opportunity to do that, which we felt like was also important because this belongs to the community and not just to us. So that shared branding is available on our partner website with Experience Grand Rapids. There's also a shared calendar there where any community organization, any business can post their own events that might be tied back to the 175th. We then invested in all the promotions for 175 and for the event. And as I mentioned, all of these things can be used by the entire community literally in any way that they would like. So I'm going to hand it off to the party planner in chief to talk a little bit about what happened on Saturday. I'm thankful that there's no pictures of me. No evidence of what happened on Saturday. One thing I can say is that spending an hour in a dunk tank is far more physically demanding than you might imagine, especially when it's freezing cold water. So, Yvette, come on up.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Doug. And I do have a photo if anyone is interested in seeing Doug in the dunk tank. Well, as Doug said, we really had an exciting Saturday as a community where we had so many folks come out. We're waiting for the numbers still of how many folks were there at the birthday party to celebrate the birthday, the anniversary of the city of Grand Rapids. We had about 40 community partners who volunteered their time. They brought giveaways, they brought games to engage the community, and we had about a dozen or so city departments who were represented at the event as well. We had vehicles for folks to explore vehicles and get through and touch and pull the levers, but we also had firemen out there grilling hot dogs, and we had the water department with the dunk tank, and we had so many other departments, HR with the Jeopardy booth, that really came out and came together as a community to celebrate our 175th. I want to say thank you to our sponsors, Consumers Energy, Meyer, Wood, TV8, 98.7 The Grand, Vicinity Energy, and of course, so many others who gave of their time, gave of their money, just because they understand how important this is for the city of Grand Rapids. But I also want to mention that we're not done yet, right? So the 175th is going to continue on. Thank you, Doug. All right, so we have a traveling exhibit that you can see now right here at City Hall. It is on the Ottawa level. There are 10 banners that depict 175 images from 175 years. Those banners will be traveling throughout the community for the rest of the year. So if you know of a business or an organization that would like to have that banner, just have them reach out to my office and I'll get them set up with our archivist and we will get them on the schedule. But right now, again, it's on the Ottawa level of City Hall. So I invite everyone as you leave today, make sure you go check out the banner. It's really informative. There's a QR code where you can learn more. We also have a poster contest that's going on right now where we were making a commemorative poster. So just like you see the posters down on the Monroe level when you walk in with Festival of the Arts, we will have a poster depicting the 175th anniversary of the city. There is a beer in partnership with KCAD and the Beer City Brewers Guild that will be released. It's a commemorative beer that will be available in bars on tap, and so look for more information about that. And then there's lots of tie-ins with special events that are occurring all throughout the city. So we have some window clings that if a business would like a window cling, they can contact my office and we can get them a window cling to put up. We also have a scavenger hunt and an online walking tour that will be starting in July. And then there's some designated selfie spots in front of some of our landmarks and iconic images here in the city. We're working with the Chamber where we will be hosting a business week that will be coming up in August, where businesses will be offering all kinds of 175 specials to keep the celebration going. And then we're working with Art Prize, where we will have some activations going on specifically connected to 175. So again, the party was just the kickoff. There's so much more coming. If you have ideas, don't hesitate to contact our office. My email is epitman@grand-rapids.mi.us. Give me an email and we're happy to see what we can incorporate into the celebration. But thank you all for being there. Thank you for your work handing out 2,000 cupcakes. That was no small feat, and we really appreciate all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvette. And I do want to mention that we do have birthday cake in the break room when we get done right now. Hand it over to Lou.
Thank you, Doug. So the next section of the presentation is about a prospective celebration. So this is about what will occur next year on July 4th when we mark the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. And I was reflecting on 250, which can seem like a big number, but we are a young country. 250 years ago, the people of the Three Fires lived here. 75 years after that, Grand Rapids was founded. And I was thinking about this in personal terms. For those of us who still have older parents or grandparents who are with us, many of them have been alive for a third of the existence of this country as the United States. And for myself, 20%, which seems like a lot, like time passes. But we can celebrate what we remember and what our neighbors and relatives remember, which is part of our history, along with what we've learned in school, which is also part of our history. We want to do both. So we've thought in terms of several themes, and I'm part of a group of staff who have been designated to work on this. I'll get to some of the organization of the initiative in a couple minutes. But we've thought in terms of one of the themes of honoring our past, inspiring our future. So we know lots of Americans are very passionate about our country. And people are passionate about celebrating it. There's a lot to celebrate. And people are passionate about criticizing it. And there certainly are valid criticisms. And this is not about hiding one or the other. Both are valid. And as we move through this, we're going to speak to and think about both. And this photo is important because 50 years ago, when we celebrated the 200th, our own Gerald Ford was president. And I will not read from any of his remarks on July 4th, 1976, but it's a good speech. And he gets into some of the celebration and the criticism and call to action. So it's easy to find online if you're interested. And I think it's special that he was president when we did this last. So this is of national significance, of course, all centered around next July 4th, which will be a Saturday. So we will be able to have Saturday fireworks. We don't have to have July 4th fireworks on a Tuesday, or excuse me, July 4th on a Tuesday and the fireworks on a Saturday. So it will actually be on the day. And there will certainly be national institutions that are part of this. National Archives, the Ford Museum is part of the National Archives. They're one of the partners in this effort. Entities like the National Constitution Center. This is also a statewide initiative. So you can see a quote here from Governor Whitmer's designation of some state-level institutions as those who will be the official points of contact for the state's commemoration. And the state legislature appropriated some funding, actually $2 million towards this in a recent budget. It's being administered as grants in a couple rounds, and our group did apply for some of that, and we will have something fun to announce in the future. We're sure that we'll be able to tap some of those funds. In terms of local emphasis, we've also talked a lot about the community master plan. So, what we do locally affects who we become nationally, and as we move toward becoming the type of community that's defined in the community master plan, that's going to affect our nation, and it's about the direction that we are choosing to head in as part of it. So we do want to tie to those kind of local efforts. An important concept, this is about our nation's principles. It's not about, and I'm going to add the word partisan politics. It's not about partisan politics. This is about our principles as a nation. And figuring out how to celebrate during what is a fraught time, we know. So the principles that our steering committee has zeroed in on are at the highest level: people, purpose, and progress. So people, think of concepts like dignity, equality, freedom, valuing people, knowing that we're better in community, and when we develop our talents and help our neighbors to do the same. Purpose, from the Declaration, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We do have many shared ideals. And there still are many opportunities for us to succeed in this country. And then progress, where we are today, where we've been, doesn't have to define where we are a generation from now. So how can we take action today, including through some of the things that we're doing locally, to create a more perfect union. The organization that we have so far, which really has been developed over the last 6 months, it's a steering committee and subcommittee model. So we have a steering committee that's co-chaired by Mayor LeGrand. So thank you, Mayor, for doing that. And City Manager Washington is a member of it, as are roughly 20 other community leaders. And they've had a central role in defining those three pillars, the principles that I spoke about a moment ago. And then we have these subcommittees, and I want to recognize Todd Kraus. Todd, will you raise your hand? So Todd is the lead staff person helping all of these subcommittees, and there are about 20 of them, to get organized, get staffed, figure out their work plans. That's a lot of work, to work with 20 subcommittees. So I want to express my appreciation to him for doing that. I see what he's doing behind the scenes. As you can see from these subcommittees, we have in mind something that's pretty broad-based in terms of what will happen next year, which will really be a spring, summer, fall type of initiative. It's not just going to be July 4th. And so it's educational, cultural, civic, business, involves government. I also want to note the city-county government subcommittee. County Administrator Al Vanderberg is co-chairing that, along with city manager, and I and other staff are helping to support that. Almost to the end, so want to spend a little time on what we are hoping that community members and organizations can think about contributing over time. So we already have a lot of organizations that are doing some of the types of things I just mentioned. But there are lots of opportunities for things like promotion, events, learning and educational opportunities, service, promoting civics, and then just celebrating what is a major milestone. So this is an early stage update. We'll have more to tell you in the future. Seems like compared to other communities, we're doing pretty well, probably a little ahead of the curve. A lot of work to be done. And what you can do is let your constituents know what we're working on. So that'll be something that'll help build some energy and maybe some interest in being part of this. And we will provide you with future updates as warranted. Thank you.
Thanks. And I do think, I just want to lean in a little bit to what Mr. Canfield said, and that is, I've often been saying recently that I think that there are two things that may make our democracy fail, which is always something that, it's something our founders thought about. It's something the minute we started making this country, we started worrying about whether we could hold it together, because we have a country that's founded around an idea, which is a really strange concept in the world. Most countries just exist because people were born there and people were like, well, we're French because I'm French, because my ancestors were French or whatever. But an ideal-based country is always under threat of dissolution if people stop believing in the ideals or stop even understanding or caring what those ideals are. So the two big threats that I see that I talk about a lot are dissolution into two warring camps that throw rocks at each other and can't figure out how to disagree without imputing malice. And so I think hyper-partisanship in America is a huge, huge threat. And then the other is collapse in trust in government institutions generally. And all of us up here have devoted a lot of our lives to trying to make government trustworthy, and so is probably everybody in this room. And, everybody who works for the city is part of that broad commitment to making government worthy of trust. But it's easy in any civilization for people to feel like government is the other, to point fingers at it, to feel like it's not. But in a democracy, you don't get to do that. We all bought it. We all have to keep participating in it. And we all have to remember that it has validity or lack of validity only to the extent that we engage and commit ourselves to it. So moments like this are really important, and I think probably this is the most important time and most fragile time in my lifetime for democracy in the United States. And so these kinds of celebrations, frankly, for me, are not parties. They are moments for us to recommit ourselves to what is, frankly, an amazing experiment and to a sort of a mind-blowing concept that we want to live in a society, and this loops back to our Pride celebration moment because it's just a piece of that puzzle. This simple crystallizing concept of the United States of America is that we want to live in a country where every single voice matters and every single voice gets heard and weighted, and that this is not a country where we scale people according to characteristics or assets, but the inherent dignity of being a human being on planet Earth also includes the inherent dignity of being a human being in the United States of America. And that's a lot of work to keep recommitting ourselves to, because it's easy to other people. It's easy when you get a little influence to feel like that makes you special, and that means you should have a different or a stronger voice than anybody else. And we have to fight that little voice in our head every single day, as far as I'm concerned, and commit ourselves to the radical egalitarianism that America really promises to everyone. And it's our job to keep fulfilling that promise. So sorry for the soapbox, but this is a pretty important issue. And so I'm really, really glad that we can lift up that conversation in the context of the celebration. So thank you, Doug and Lou, for that summary. And with that, that is the last item of our agenda. Oh, I'm sorry. Colleagues, any last minute comments? Otherwise, we also have to vote on moving into closed session. So yes, I didn't bang the magic gavel. Yeah, Commissioner Usasi.
Thank you all for those thoughts. A morning full of kind of what's happening locally, but, Mayor, you talked about what's happening really across, this country as well. And I know that's on lots of minds. I do want to bring it back and just say thank you. Myself, Commissioner Kilgore, and Commissioner Belcheck were able to, I don't think we passed out, 500 of the 2,000 cupcakes, or maybe Commissioner Belcheck's daughter did. But I just wanted to say thank you. I know a lot went into that event, and I just saw it kind of at the tail end, the back and forth with the script and things like that. I really appreciated, and not only the city, but also Mr. Ron Yob for being there as part of the Grand River Band of Ottawa Indians. I think we celebrate what has been done over the last 175 years, and as you said, Lou, as you say, recognize who was here before, and I think that is part of the process too that we're having with our river activation as well, and that's been really critical. We've certainly seen that with the start of the construction with Canal Park as well, and Ron and others are really actively a part of that. So I just want to say thank you again personally hopefully on behalf of the commission. Sorry, I'm speaking for everybody, but I know Saturday was a good event. It was a beautiful weather. And I feel like a lot of details. So colleagues, if you weren't able to go, I know like Commissioner Robbins, you were like serving our country. So that was a pretty good reason to miss. But there was some great swag. And I think that there is such a pride. Like, I know maybe, I tell people it's like, we don't have to agree on everything, but have pride in this place that we live and what has been done, and that a lot of things have come out of Grand Rapids, a lot of firsts, and just so many good people doing so many good things in this community. So I have my swag, I'm happily wearing it, I'm very grateful for it, and see a lot of other people who are like reproducing. So thank you again to you, Yvette, and to city staff who were there with the gloves and everything, just making it happen on Saturday. Thank you.
Anyone else? Otherwise,
I'll just say that I had a lot of fun, and yes, my 10-year-old daughter outlasted me. I did about an hour and a half of cupcakes, and she was having so much fun, she did another hour all by herself. But I really enjoyed the Jeopardy and the history, so as well as the camaraderie, and so I look forward to all of the celebrations that continue for the rest of the year and onward.
okay, so I'd like to make a motion, or hear a motion rather, for moving into closed session for the purpose of discussing ongoing litigation.
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Clerk, if you call the roll.
Commissioner Kilgore?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
Commissioner Sassi?
Yes.
Commissioner Purdue?
Yes.
Commissioner Belcheck?
Yes.
Mayor LaGrand?
Yes, that moves us into closed session.